They call this Roman, but it's clearly much older. Had to have been done with lost ancient high technology of some kind. Okay, we're now approaching the main quarry at Baalbek. And this is the one called the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. Now this is at least 1,200 tons, and recent excavations show that there are possibly larger ones underneath it. Okay, now climbing up on top of this massive block of limestone.
Biggest rock in the world, eh?
One of them. So here you get an idea that just the size of this thing is outrageous, and in relation to the temple where the other large ones are resting right now, that is the Temple of Jupiter in the background. Like many megalithic sites on the planet, this has been misidentified as possibly being a work of the Romans. Now the Romans built on top of the megalithic constructions at Baalbek, but there's no way they had the technology, tools, or probably even inclination to try to quarry the largest stone that would ever have been done in the Roman Empire here, somewhat in the middle of nowhere in relation to Rome itself. So what we're looking at is a megalithic work predating the Romans, the Greeks, and the Egyptians by probably thousands of years, by an unknown civilization that clearly had some type of what we would call lost ancient high technology capability. So we're actually in the quarry itself here, and you can see the tool marks and the grayness, so you see a lot of weathering on this surface. This is the very recent, as in less than 6 months ago, removal of material. And you see those interesting, almost crisscross cutting marks, as well as along the bottom of this block, there's a continuous line that goes around it, as if there was another kind of tool attempting to be used to separate this block from the bedrock itself. And underneath, an even larger one that they were trying to extract. And we also have these test holes where they were testing for the integrity of the stone itself. Because this material is quite solid and holds together well, but on this wall, that's loosely compacted, almost junk, so you couldn't extract a large stone from this area. It would just crumble into pieces as it's doing here at the base.
Brain with a muscle.
Because look, if it is just a matter of size, it will be muscles. إنما في precision, في precise work done. Giants cannot do precise work. Highest and delicate. Not only physical.
Learn about the modern story of the site. Looks like they were using that block for quarry. Yeah. Still got it.
Because as Alex said, from an engineering standpoint, it's more difficult because you think this is going to slide down as you cut it.
Yeah.
So it's more difficult, but they had a reason for doing it.
When rock sedimentates, there's magnetic alignments in the rock as it
It's
sedimentates.
almost to the same angle.
Yes, yes.
We're looking at almost exactly the same angle of the unfinished opening.
It's so great when we work as a team. You know, everybody puts an input.
Yeah,
It's just incredible.
yeah.
That's what the Kemet School is. It's a living book.
So this is another massive block of at least 1,000 tons as I crawl uphill in the quarry across the street. Of course, the whole thing was a quarry. And you can see where later cultures were trying to cut smaller pieces from the mega block. And it is possible that originally it was part of this massive limestone outcrop and then was cut and fell in its present position. But the question from there is, why did the work stop? Why did they not manage to either break it into pieces or move it, as they did 3 others, to the actual site of Baalbek, which is at least a mile or 2 in that direction? And there's a local story that the reason that the Romans built this massive structure here was to show their wealth and power, but that story was probably made up by the Romans. So we're at the site of Baalbek itself,
Go up there so we can
and this is where we have
the side.
the transition between manageable and these, which are huge.
Smaller pieces helping the pressure, reduce the pressure from the big ones. Yes, exactly. Yes.
So it's the same thing.
pressure زي اللي بنشوفها ايه في ال on the
Now this column is polished so smooth and so round, and this curved transition between the curve and the flat is so amazing. It's highly unlikely that this could be done with hand tools, because any sculptor, no matter how good they are, would tend to make a mistake of a dip or a bump. And even after thousands of years, there are no dips and bumps. And this edge, what's left of it, is very sharp. That gives us very strong evidence of the possibility of ancient machining technology. And now we're going to get Stephen Mailer's opinion about the finish on this piece of syenite.
Cyanide
Stone.
granite. Obviously from Aswan, there are no granite quarries in all of Lebanon. And here's a perfect, smooth polish still on the stone, just like we see at Aswan.
Yeah.
And this is obviously from ancient Kemet.
And it's obviously, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to do that by hand, because your hand is feeling that that would be a perfect circle.
Perfect radius too, great arc radius, so it has to be machined.
Now, the Greeks and the Romans were able to do very beautiful work, as we can see here. You see that carving, gorgeous. But in general, they were only able to do that kind of work in either limestone or alabaster. When it comes to a material as hard as granite or syenite, which is what many of these columns are, the hardness of the stone, because of the crystal content and other minerals, is about 7 on what's called the Mohs scale, with the greatest or hardest stone that we know of being diamond at 10. So it's highly unlikely that they were capable of doing this fine, yet perfectly smooth surfaces in the granite or syenite. And the later cultures also were not able very well to work with that material, so we're left with no choice but to look at the idea that an even older culture was here that had forms of technology not available to the Greeks, the Romans, or indeed the dynastic Egyptians. And it's like in Peru and Egypt, we see obvious evidence of lost ancient high technology at work, such as this column here. Again, this is granite or syenite, and it is, by feel at least, a perfect circle in a very hard stone. So a site like this at Baalbek, you really have to decode it. It is so huge and so complicated because of the different cultures involved in its construction, and the fact that it's been ruined by later cultures, which is typical. Almost anywhere you go in the world, you find someone built something fantastic, the next culture maybe nurtured it and added on, and then barbarians of some kind come along and just like nuke most of the site and then use it as a quarry. But if we look really carefully, we're seeing definite megalithic, high-tech, lost ancient technology elements here.
Would you like to take a group picture? Let's take a group picture, please. First. Camet, group picture in Baalbek. Touristic picture. We go to Pakistan.
No, this is what is Abu Jalab. Abu Jalab is calcite. This is a big difference. And the gears are on the outside there, not on the. This is Roman. No, the Roman. Such beautiful stone. I'd love to have an altar that's made of this.
I'd like to have a lot of things made out of that.
I will show you the other one because it's in the exit, the one we found me and Stevie too.